Some games are just straight up masterpieces, so in this video I am going to talk about 15 games that simply deserve the tag of perfection. Well, now obviously nothing in the world is perfect, but these games come very close, so let's look at the first game on our list. Uncharted 4. So, let's talk about Uncharted 4, which if you haven't played it yet, you're in for a treat. This game wraps up Nathan Drake's story with all the bombast and flair you'd expect from the series, but with a maturity that hits harder than a punch from Sully. From the moment you dive into this adventure, you're greeted with stunning visuals that make you question whether you're playing a game or watching a blockbuster movie. Seriously, the level of detail in every environment is insane. It's like they hired an army of artists to make each scene look like a painting.
But not nearly enough.
You were told not to open that.
Yes.
The story is a roller coaster. Nathan Drake is trying to live a normal life, which, spoiler alert, doesn't last long. The game introduces Nathan's long-lost brother Sam, and the dynamic between the two adds a whole new layer to the narrative. It's not just about the treasures and ancient mysteries anymore, it's about family, legacy, and the personal stakes that make the stakes feel higher. The gameplay is as smooth as butter. You get the trademark climbing and treasure hunting, but there's also this awesome new grappling hook that adds a fresh twist to the platforming.
How do we get to him? Damned if I know. Just keep following that convoy.
And don't get me started on the set pieces, those jaw-dropping moments where you're hanging off a cliff or dodging explosions while driving a Jeep through a war zone. They make your heart race like you're actually there. The voice acting and character development are top-notch too. Nathan Drake's journey feels like a fitting end to his story. It's got humor, it's got drama, and it's got those quiet moments that make you go, wow, this is more than just a game. If you're looking for a game that nails the perfect balance of action, story, and breathtaking visuals, Uncharted 4 is a must-play. It's the kind of game that sticks with you long after the credits roll, making you wish you could go on one more adventure with Nate and friends. It Takes Two. Alright, let's dive into It Takes Two, a game that's not just a wild ride but a downright emotional roller coaster. Developed by Hazelight Studios, this one's a bit of a love letter to co-op gaming, and trust me, it's worth every minute of your time. So here's the deal: you and a buddy are going to control Cody and May, a married couple who've turned into dolls. Yeah, it sounds like something straight out of a fever dream, but hear me out. The game throws you into this whimsical world where you're navigating everything from giant sentient plants to a magical book that loves to chat your ear off. The beauty of It Takes Two is its creativity and heart. Each level has its own unique theme and gameplay mechanics, so you're never doing the same thing twice. One moment you're solving puzzles with physics-defying abilities, and the next you're in a chaotic battle against a swarm of evil wasps. It keeps things fresh and exciting throughout. And let's talk about the co-op aspect. This game is built for 2 players, and it's best enjoyed with someone you can laugh, argue, and strategize with. It's not just about working together to solve puzzles, it's about the interactions and the chemistry between the characters. The story itself delves into the ups and downs of a relationship in a really thoughtful way. It's not just a game about saving your marriage, though that's a big part of it, but also about rediscovering what made you fall in love in the first place. It's surprisingly touching and gives you a lot to think about as you work through the challenges. In a nutshell, It Takes Two is one of those games that makes you remember why co-op gaming can be so incredible. It's a wild, imaginative ride that's filled with heart, humor, and a whole lot of creativity. Grab a friend, dive in, and get ready for an unforgettable adventure.
Once more.
The Knight's Challenge? But you're not 10 years old anymore, you know.
The Plague Tale Innocence. If you haven't had a chance to experience this one yet, you're in for a real treat. This game, developed by Asobo Studio, might not be the first title that pops into your mind when you think of unforgettable experiences, but it's got a hauntingly beautiful charm that's hard to ignore. Set in 14th century France during the Black Death, the game follows siblings Amisha and Hugo de Rune as they navigate a world ravaged by plague and war. It's dark, gripping, and emotionally charged, giving you a front row seat to a period of history that's both brutal and fascinating. First off, the atmosphere in A Plague Tale is something else. The game's visuals and sound design pull you right into the grim, plague-infested world. The constant threat of swarms of rats is unsettling, and you'll often find yourself holding your breath as you sneak through their territory. It's not just about the fear factor, though the game's story and character development are what really make it shine. Amisha and Hugo's journey is incredibly personal and moving. You'll spend a lot of time in their company watching their relationship grow and seeing how they handle the immense challenges thrown their way. The narrative is powerful, touching on themes of family, survival, and the loss of innocence, all while keeping you on edge with its tense and sometimes harrowing gameplay. The gameplay itself is a mix of stealth, puzzle solving, and occasional combat. It's not a run and gun kind of game, but more about using your wits to get past obstacles and outsmart enemies. The puzzles often involve manipulating light and shadow to keep the rats at bay, which adds a unique layer of strategy to the experience. And let's not forget the setting. The historical backdrop isn't just a visual choice, it's integral to the story and the atmosphere. The plague-ridden cities and villages are depicted with a level of detail that makes the setting feel alive and oppressive, enhancing the emotional weight of the narrative. In short, A Plague Tale: Innocence is a game that manages to be both bleak and beautiful, with a story and setting that stick with you long after you've put the controller down. If you're into dark, narrative-driven games with a unique historical twist, this one's definitely worth checking out.
If I can hit the helmets in the crates over there.
Yakuza 0. Yakuza 0, the prequel to the long-running Yakuza series, is a wild ride through the neon-soaked streets of 1980s Japan. Developed by RGG Studio, this game is like a love letter to the 80s wrapped up in a package full of melodrama, over-the-top action, and some seriously quirky side missions. First off, let's talk about the setting. The game takes place in two fictional districts, Kamurocho, a bustling metropolis based on Tokyo's Kabukicho, and Sotenbori, which is a colorful nod to Osaka's Dotonbori. The level of detail in these areas is incredible. You'll feel like you're actually walking through these vibrant, bustling streets, complete with their neon lights, noisy arcades, and the occasional shady back alley. Now onto the story. Yakuza 0 follows the early careers of two major characters in the series, Kazuma Kiryu and Goro Majima. Kiryu is an up-and-coming Yakuza member who finds himself entangled in a murder mystery that threatens to unravel his life. Meanwhile, Majima, who is known for his flamboyant and unpredictable behavior, is trying to reclaim his place in the Yakuza world while dealing with his own set of problems. The narrative is filled with drama, intrigue, and a fair bit of humor, making for a compelling and engaging experience. Gameplay-wise, Yakuza 0 is a fantastic blend of beat-em-up combat and RPG elements. The combat is smooth and satisfying, with a variety of styles to choose from, each with its own unique moves and abilities. You'll spend a lot of time beating up bad guys, but there's also a lot of variety in what you can do outside of combat. There are tons of side quests, mini-games, and activities to dive into everything from managing a real estate empire to playing Sega arcade games or singing your heart out at a karaoke bar. And let's not forget the characters. The game is packed with memorable personalities and stories. From the earnest Kiryu to the eccentric Majima, the supporting cast is just as engaging. Each character's storyline is woven into the larger narrative, making the world feel alive and interconnected. Overall, Yakuza 0 is a perfect blend of serious storytelling and absurd fun. It's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, even as it delivers a deep and engaging narrative. If you're looking for a game that offers a rich world to explore, a gripping story, and a ton of offbeat side activities, Yakuza 0 is definitely one you shouldn't miss. Deus Ex Human Revolution. Deus Ex Human Revolution is a masterclass in blending futuristic cyberpunk vibes with deep, choice-driven gameplay. Developed by Eidos Montreal, this 2011 gem feels like a throwback to classic RPGs, while also setting a new standard for how we think about player choice and narrative. The story is set in a visually stunning version of the near future, where human augmentation has become the norm. You play as Adam Jensen, a security chief who gets a major upgrade after a tragic accident. Now equipped with all sorts of cybernetic enhancements, Jensen is on a mission to uncover a global conspiracy that goes far deeper than he initially thought. The narrative tackles heavy themes like ethics and technology and the nature of humanity, and it does so with a lot of nuance and thoughtfulness. The atmosphere in Deus Ex Human Revolution is one of its biggest strengths. The game's world is incredibly immersive with its blend of sleek, futuristic architecture and gritty, neon-lit streets. It's like stepping into a cyberpunk graphic novel, complete with a soundtrack that perfectly complements the setting. Gameplay is where things get really interesting. Deus Ex Human Revolution offers multiple ways to approach each mission. Whether you prefer to go in guns blazing, stealthily sneak past enemies, or use your augmentation abilities to bypass obstacles, the game supports your playstyle. It's all about choice, and the way you tackle challenges can lead to very different outcomes. This level of freedom means replaying the game to explore different strategies and outcomes is highly rewarding. The RPG elements are well done too. Jensen's augmentations aren't just cool eye candy, they genuinely affect gameplay. You can customize his abilities to suit your preferred style of play, whether that's improving hacking skills, enhancing combat prowess, or boosting stealth capabilities. The upgrade system is deep and satisfying, giving you plenty of options to tailor Jensen's abilities to your liking. One of the coolest aspects of Deus Ex Human Revolution is its approach to storytelling. The game's dialogue and choices have a real impact on how the story unfolds, and there are multiple endings depending on the decisions you make. This adds a lot of replay value and makes each playthrough feel unique. Overall, Deus Ex Human Revolution is a standout title that offers a compelling blend of narrative depth, immersive world building, and diverse gameplay options. It's a game that rewards thoughtful play and encourages players to engage with its rich, dystopian world. If you're into cyberpunk, philosophical questions, or just a well-crafted RPG, this is a must-play. Batman Arkham Asylum. Batman Arkham Asylum is a standout game that really nails what it means to embody the Dark Knight. Developed by Rocksteady Studios and released in 2009, it's one of those games that completely redefined superhero gaming and made us all wish we had a Batmobile parked in our garages. The premise is pretty straightforward. Joker's taken over Arkham Asylum and it's up to Batman to restore order, but it's the execution that makes this game truly special. The story is engaging and packed with all the right touches of Gotham's dark and gritty atmosphere. You're not just fighting bad guys, you're diving deep into a well-crafted narrative with plenty of twists and turns. The voice acting, led by Mark Hamill as the Joker and Kevin Conroy as Batman, is top-notch and adds so much personality to the characters. Gameplay-wise, Arkham Asylum excels in giving you that feeling of being Batman. The combat system is fluid and satisfying, blending punches, counters, and gadgets into a seamless experience. It's a rhythm you quickly get into where you're dodging and countering attacks while dishing out some seriously stylish moves. The game's free-flow combat system is still one of the best in action games, making each fight feel like a choreographed dance. Stealth is another highlight. The game allows you to take out enemies silently, which feels incredibly satisfying. You can use the environment to your advantage, swooping down from above or using gadgets to disorient your foes. It's not just about brute force, it's about strategy and making the most out of Batman's arsenal. The game's world is surprisingly dense for a location confined to an asylum. The environments are rich with detail, and there's a lot of hidden content to discover. The Riddler's challenges, while sometimes a bit of a head-scratcher, add an extra layer of depth and replayability. Plus, finding collectibles and solving puzzles helps you feel more connected to the lore of the Batman universe. Graphically, even for its time, the game holds up well. The dark, atmospheric visuals are perfect for a Batman story, and the character models and animations are top-notch. You really get a sense of the grim, foreboding environment that makes Arkham Asylum feel like its own character. Overall, Batman Arkham Asylum is a game that every Batman fan should experience. It combines a gripping story with tight gameplay and a richly detailed world. It's the kind of game that makes you feel like you're really stepping into the shoes of the Dark Knight, and it's still one of the best superhero games out there. Metro Exodus. Metro Exodus is the third installment in the Metro series, and boy does it take the post-apocalyptic formula and run with it. Developed by 4A Games and released in 2019, this game is a big leap forward from its predecessors, offering a sprawling, open-world experience that's both thrilling and visually stunning. Set in a Russia ravaged by nuclear war, the game picks up where Metro Last Light left off. Instead of being confined to the claustrophobic tunnels of the Metro, you're thrust into a much broader, more open environment. The shift to a semi-open world gives you a sense of freedom and exploration that the previous games couldn't quite match. You're not just surviving in the dark anymore, you're out in the open, navigating through snow-covered landscapes, sun-scorched deserts, and lush, post-apocalyptic forests. The story follows Artyom as he and a group of survivors journey across the country in search of a new life. The narrative is immersive, blending personal stories with larger themes of survival and hope in a world that's far from forgiving. The voice acting and writing are top-notch, drawing you into the emotional highs and lows of the journey. What sets Metro Exodus apart is its attention to detail. The environments are richly detailed, from the snowy wastelands to the desolate ruins of cities. The weather effects are impressive and have a real impact on gameplay, affecting visibility and how you approach different situations. And let's not forget the dynamic day-night cycle, which adds another layer of strategy and immersion. The combat is gritty and intense, staying true to the series' roots. You'll find yourself scavenging for resources, crafting ammunition, and managing your equipment meticulously. The game doesn't hold your hand, so every fight feels meaningful, and you need to be smart about how you use your resources. Stealth is also a viable option, allowing you to sneak past enemies or take them down quietly. One of the standout features is the vehicle you get to drive, which is a real game changer. It's like having a mobile base that can transport you across various terrains, adding a new layer of gameplay that wasn't in the previous games. The game's soundtrack and sound design deserve a shout out as well. The atmospheric music and environmental sounds really draw you into the world, making it feel alive and immersive. Metro Exodus is a fantastic game that expands on the Metro series in meaningful ways. It offers a richly detailed world, engaging gameplay, and a compelling story. If you're a fan of post-apocalyptic settings or just love a good adventure, this one's definitely worth checking out. Final Fantasy VII Remake. Alright, let's dive into Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, if you've been living under a rock and missed the buzz, this isn't just a straight-up rehash of the 1997 classic. Square Enix took a beloved, iconic game and gave it a modern facelift, and boy, did they do it with flair. First off, let's talk about the nostalgia factor. If you grew up with the original Final Fantasy VII, you know it's more than just a game, it's a piece of gaming history. The remake is like seeing an old friend after years and realizing they've become even cooler. The characters are as memorable as ever. Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, and Barret all return, looking better than ever thanks to the updated graphics. And speaking of graphics, this game is a visual feast. The detailed character models, lush environments, and stunning cutscenes make you feel like you're living in the world of Midgar. It's like stepping into a high-definition version of a dream you had as a kid. The story remains faithful to the original, but gets expanded in ways that are both intriguing and occasionally, unexpected. Without spoiling too much, let's just say the plot twists and additions give both new and old fans a lot to chew on. The game takes its time to flesh out characters and moments that were a bit more rushed in the original, adding layers of depth to everyone's favorite or least favorite characters.
Job's a job.
Now, the gameplay. The combat system is where things get really exciting. Instead of sticking with the classic turn-based system, the remake opts for a more dynamic, real-time battle system. It's a mix of action and strategy switch between characters on the fly, unleash powerful attacks, and strategically use your ATB active time battle gauge. It's fast-paced and engaging, making each fight feel exhilarating. Plus, the ability to pause and issue commands adds a nice strategic layer. The side quests and mini-games are another highlight. Whether you're participating in the hilariously charming For Condor board game or helping out quirky NPCs in Midgar, there's plenty to do outside of the main story. And let's not forget about the soundtrack. The remake's orchestral versions of the original's tunes are nothing short of epic. You'll find yourself humming the new renditions of classic tracks long after you've put the controller down. But if we're being honest, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Some of the pacing can feel a bit slow at times, and there are a few filler side quests that might test your patience. The game is also episodic, so while the first part is fantastic, it leaves you hanging, eagerly awaiting the next installment. In short, Final Fantasy VII Remake is a love letter to fans of the original and a fantastic entry point for newcomers. It modernizes a classic without losing the heart of what made the original special. If you've ever wanted to revisit Midgar with a fresh coat of paint and some new surprises, this game is a must-play. Just be ready for a wild ride and maybe a few tears along the way.
Take much longer.
Cyberpunk 2077. So let's talk about Cyberpunk 2077. If you were around for the hype train that was 2020, you probably remember the whirlwind of excitement and, well, the reality check that followed. CD Projekt Red's ambitious vision of Night City promised a sci-fi playground like no other, and despite the rocky launch, it's definitely worth a deeper look now. First up, the world. Night City is a sprawling, neon-lit metropolis that feels alive. It's like wandering through a cyberpunk movie set, where every corner holds a new story or secret. The city is detailed, and there's a certain gritty charm to its mix of high-tech and dystopia. Whether you're cruising through the crowded streets or exploring the back alleys, there's always something catching your eye, from the flashy billboards to the random NPC conversations. Now, let's talk characters. V, the protagonist, is customizable in terms of looks and backstory, which is cool, but what really stands out are the supporting characters. Johnny Silverhand, played by Keanu Reeves, is a particular highlight. His dialogue and interactions with V are often the best parts of the story. There's a lot of character depth and memorable moments here, though the story does have some pacing issues and can feel a bit disjointed at times. When it comes to gameplay, Cyberpunk 2077 has undergone some serious updates since launch. The combat system is pretty fun, blending gunplay with hacking and cybernetic enhancements. Stealth options are available if you prefer to avoid a full-on shootout. The skill trees and upgrades let you tailor V's abilities to your playstyle, which is a nice touch. But let's address the elephant in the room, the bugs. The game's launch was infamous for glitches and performance issues. While many have been fixed in patches, you might still encounter the occasional hiccup or visual glitch. If you're diving in now, expect a more polished experience, but keep in mind that it's not entirely smooth sailing. In the end, Cyberpunk 2077 is a mixed bag. It's ambitious and has a lot to offer, especially if you enjoy open-world games with rich environments and complex characters. It's come a long way from its troubled launch, and if you're into cyberpunk aesthetics and stories, it's worth checking out. Just be prepared for some rough edges and know that even if the game isn't perfect, it's still got a lot of heart and style. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Alright, let's dive into The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. This game is practically a legend at this point, and for good reason. If you've somehow missed out on it so far, buckle up, because you're in for an epic ride through a sprawling fantasy world. First off, Geralt of Rivia is one of those characters who just oozes charisma and depth. He's the grizzled monster hunter with a heart of gold, or at least a heart that's complicated enough to keep things interesting. The story is a sprawling epic with so many twists and turns. You're not just hunting monsters, you're getting wrapped up in a rich narrative filled with political intrigue, personal drama, and mythological lore. It's like binge watching a top-tier fantasy series, but with way more control over the outcome. The world itself is a masterpiece. From the war-torn lands of Velen to the bustling streets of Novigrad and the snowy peaks of Skellige, every region is packed with detail. The landscapes are stunning, and the attention to detail is incredible. It's not just about how it looks though, it's about how it feels. You'll stumble upon hidden quests, meet eccentric characters, and get lost in the world's history. Combat in The Witcher 3 can be pretty challenging, but also deeply satisfying once you get the hang of it. It's not just about hacking away at monsters, it's about strategy and preparation. You'll need to use potions, signs, and your wits to take down tougher foes. Plus, there's a ton of loot and crafting materials, which means you can really tailor your gear to suit your playstyle. Now, let's talk side quests. The main storyline is gripping, but the side quests, they're something else. They range from heart-wrenching personal stories to bizarre, fantastical adventures. These quests often have a lot of depth and can make you feel like you're part of a living, breathing world. Some of them are so well crafted that they could be main quests in other games. Also, the expansions Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine are worth every penny. They're not just extra content, they add significant new areas, characters, and stories that are just as engaging as the main game. Blood and Wine, in particular, feels like a whole new game with its own unique setting and storyline. The Witcher 3 isn't just a game, it's an experience. It's the kind of game where you'll lose track of time, get attached to characters, and maybe even find yourself wanting to explore every little nook and cranny of its vast world. If you haven't played it yet, now's the time to dive in, and if you have, well, there's always another playthrough waiting for you.
I didn't see you get on.
Half-Life 2. Half-Life 2. If you're a gamer, this one's likely been on your radar for a long time. Released in 2004, it's still often cited as one of the best first-person shooters ever made. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. Let's start with Gordon Freeman, the protagonist. He's a bit of a blank slate, but that's part of the charm. You, as the player, get to step into his lab coat and take on a world that's been turned upside down. The story kicks off with a bang, throwing you into a dystopian future where Earth's been overrun by alien invaders and oppressive forces. You're not just fighting aliens, you're up against a bleak, authoritarian regime that's got its claws deep in humanity. What really makes Half-Life 2 stand out is its atmosphere. From the eerie, desolate streets of City 17 to the dense, overgrown swamps, every environment feels meticulously crafted. The game's pacing is spot on, with a mix of intense action sequences and quieter, more atmospheric moments. It's a roller coaster, but it's not just about the thrills, it's about immersing you in a world that feels both expansive and alive. And, oh man, the gravity gun. This quirky little piece of tech lets you pick up and throw objects in creative ways, and it's a total game changer. It's not just a gimmick, it's integrated into puzzles and combat in ways that keep things fresh and exciting. You'll find yourself experimenting with it, tossing around barrels and using them to solve puzzles or fend off enemies. It's a blast. The enemy design is also worth mentioning. The Combine soldiers and their various monstrous allies are memorable and at times genuinely unsettling. The AI is smart enough to make fights challenging without being frustrating, and the game's overall design ensures that even if you're in the middle of an intense firefight, there's always something new to see or experience. Oh, and the narrative. Without spoiling too much, let's just say that Half-Life 2 as story is as engaging as it is mysterious. The game leaves you with plenty of questions and theories to chew on, and the ending. It's a classic cliffhanger that has kept fans speculating for years. In summary, Half-Life 2 is one of those games that holds up incredibly well even after all these years. Its combination of immersive storytelling, innovative gameplay mechanics, and atmospheric world building make it a must-play for anyone who hasn't yet experienced it. If you're diving into it for the first time or revisiting it, you're in for a memorable ride. Max Payne 3. Oh, Max Payne 3. If you've been around the block with gaming, you might remember this one from 2012. The third entry in the Max Payne series takes a bit of a departure from its predecessors, but man, does it deliver in style. So Max Payne is back, but this time he's a bit older, a bit rougher around the edges, and definitely more brooding. He's left New York behind and finds himself in Sao Paulo, Brazil, taking on a private security job. This isn't exactly a vacation, though things get ugly fast. The city is rife with corruption, and Max is thrown into the middle of a high-stakes kidnapping case that goes south quickly. The story is classic Max Payne, dark, gritty, and packed with twists. It's like diving into a hard-boiled detective novel where the main character is as messed up as the cases he's involved in. The writing is sharp, and the dialogue has that gritty noir charm that makes you feel like you're walking through the pages of a pulpy crime novel. The gameplay? Well, Max Payne 3 cranks it up to 11. The bullet time mechanic, where you slow down time to dodge bullets and take out enemies in style, is back and better than ever. The gunplay is as satisfying as you remember. There's something immensely satisfying about the way bullets hit their targets and the way you can use slow-mo to orchestrate your own action sequences. And then there's the setting. Sao Paulo is alive in this game, even if it's not exactly the most picturesque version. The gritty, neon-soaked streets, the crumbling buildings, and the bustling crowds create a backdrop that feels as much a character in the story as Max himself. The environments are detailed and you really get a sense of the city's atmosphere, both its vibrancy and its underlying menace. The visuals are top-notch with Rockstar's trademark attention to detail. The game is a looker with dynamic lighting and fluid animations that make every firefight feel intense and visceral. The sound design is equally impressive, with a soundtrack that pumps up the adrenaline and sound effects that make every shot feel impactful. But let's not forget the story's emotional weight. Max is a troubled soul, and his journey in this game explores themes of loss, redemption, and the cost of violence. It's not just about shooting bad guys, it's about a man grappling with his past and trying to find a semblance of peace amidst the chaos. In a nutshell, Max Payne 3 is a gritty, action-packed thrill ride with a story that sticks with you long after the credits roll. If you're into hard-hitting narratives and over-the-top action, this game is a must-play. Even years after its release, it stands out as a strong entry in the Max Payne series and a testament to Rockstar's ability to craft unforgettable experiences. Red Dead Redemption 2. So let's talk about Red Dead Redemption 2. If you haven't played this one yet, you're really missing out. It's like stepping into an old Western movie, but you're living it. You play as Arthur Morgan, a member of a gang trying to survive in the late 1800s. The game is all about how your gang deals with being chased, making tough choices, and living in a world that's changing fast. The world in this game is huge. Seriously, it's massive. You can ride your horse through snowy mountains, dusty deserts, and lush forests. The best part? Everything feels real. You can spend hours just exploring and finding cool stuff or meeting strange characters. It's like every part of the game has its own story to tell.
You stay away from that woman, you son of a... You keep this up, no one's gonna bet either. Who the hell are you? How did that feel?
The gameplay is super immersive. Hunting, fishing, and even talking to people all feel like real-life activities. The way you interact with the world is detailed. You can track animals, cook food, and even build relationships with people you meet. It's not just about shooting and fighting, it's about living in this world. Combat is fun too. You can go all out with guns blazing or plan your attacks and be sneaky. It's up to you how you want to handle each situation, plus the way the game handles shooting and fighting feels pretty satisfying. Visually, the game is stunning. The environments are so beautiful that you might catch yourself stopping just to admire the view. The sounds from the wind blowing through the trees to the clopping of your horse's hooves add to the feeling that you're really there. Arthur Morgan's story is what makes the game special. He's a complex character with a tough life, and you'll find yourself really caring about what happens to him. The choices you make throughout the game affect his story, and that makes every decision feel important. Overall, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a fantastic experience. It's more than just a game, it's a world to get lost in and a story to live through. If you're up for an adventure that feels both epic and personal, this game is definitely worth your time.
You hungry, huh? I got food. I got shit.
The Last of Us Part 1. Alright, let me tell you about The Last of Us Part 1. This game, it's a ride. Seriously, it's not just a game, it's an experience. From the moment you jump into Joel and Ellie's world, you're in for an emotional roller coaster. So, you start with Joel, this tough-as-nails guy who's seen a lot of crap in this post-apocalyptic mess. He's kind of a grump with a soft spot for Ellie, a teenager who's had more than her fair share of heartbreak. Their relationship, it's one of the most real and raw things you'll see in games. You'll see Joel's tough exterior crack a bit as he bonds with Ellie, and Ellie's growth throughout the game is something special. The world they're surviving in is like a character in itself. It's beautifully bleak. You've got overgrown cities, eerie abandoned buildings, and just this general sense of what the heck happened here. I remember wandering through these environments and feeling like I was really there, exploring a world that was simultaneously breathtaking and terrifying. It's one of those games where you'll find yourself just standing still, soaking in the details because it feels so immersive. Now, the gameplay, it's intense. You can sneak around, use stealth to your advantage, or just go full-on action mode. Ammo is scarce, so it really makes you think about your approach. I love the tension it added. Every encounter felt meaningful. It's not just about fighting, it's about managing resources, making tough choices, and dealing with the consequences of your actions. And the story. Man, the story, it's heart-wrenching. The writing and voice acting are top tier. You'll connect with Joel and Ellie in a way that's rare in games. There were moments where I was genuinely emotional, and that doesn't happen often. The game doesn't shy away from showing the darker sides of humanity, but it also gives you these glimmers of hope that make the journey worth it. Graphically, it's pretty stunning, especially for its time. The characters' expressions and the detailed environments just pull you in deeper. You really feel like you're living through Joel and Ellie's struggles. If you haven't played The Last of Us Part 1, you're missing out on something special. It's a game that hits you hard, makes you think, and sticks with you long after you put down the controller. It's definitely one of those titles that's worth experiencing.
You're gonna pay for that!